You mistake impulse for freedom. Predators weaponize discipline while you leak power daily, obedient to comfort, loyalty, and moral myths designed to keep you edible. Discipline is a weapon, not a virtue. You were taught discipline as morality, a badge of goodness, a trait for obedient citizens, reliable workers, predictable men. That framing was not accidental. It was a containment strategy. Predators do not adopt discipline to be better people. They use it to become dangerous on command. The moment you believe discipline exists to make you healthy, balanced, or fulfilled, it loses its edge. Virtue pacifies. Weapons dominate. Machiavelli understood this distinction with surgical clarity. Power does not reward goodness, it rewards control. Discipline is control made habitual. Most men associate discipline with restriction imposed from outside, rules, routines, punishments. That is the first lie. External discipline creates compliance, not power. The soldier who obeys because he must is not sovereign. He is rented force. True discipline is internal coercion. It is the ability to deny impulse even when no one is watching, especially when indulgence is available, socially accepted, and consequence-free. This is why discipline separates predators from prey. Predators can starve themselves in abundance. Prey consume the moment it appears. You live in a world engineered to dissolve discipline. Infinite stimulation, instant relief, moral narratives that praise self-care while quietly eroding self-command. This is not decadence by accident, it is selection by environment. Those who cannot regulate themselves become manageable, predictable, harmless. Discipline, correctly understood, is not self-improvement, it is self-ownership. When you cannot control your appetite, your attention, your emotions, or your reactions, you are not free. You are piloted by stimuli. Every notification moves you. Every insult provokes you. Every pleasure delays you. That is not a man, that is terrain. Predators require discipline because power operates on timing. Strike too early, you reveal intent. Strike too late, you lose position. Discipline creates temporal leverage, the ability to wait while others bleed urgency. While prey rushes to relieve discomfort, the predator compounds advantage in silence. This is why disciplined men appear cold. It is not emotional absence. It is emotional containment. Feelings are allowed to exist, but never to command. Machiavelli warned that men who act from impulse are easily manipulated because impulse advertises itself. Discipline makes you unreadable. Notice the inversion. Society frames disciplined men as rigid, obsessive, or joyless. Meanwhile, undisciplined men are praised as authentic, expressive, alive. This is moral camouflage. Expression without control is exposure. Exposure invites exploitation. The predator understands something you were never told. Discipline hurts because it is supposed to. Pain is not a malfunction. It is the signal that impulse has been denied. Every time you choose discomfort over relief, you train the nervous system to obey command instead of craving. Prey avoid pain reflexively. Predators schedule it. Discipline is also selective. It forces you to abandon false identities. Nice guy, loyal friend, good man. That sabotage power. Loyalty without leverage is submission. Goodness without strength is permission to be used. Discipline strips these costumes and leaves only function. This chapter is not asking you to admire discipline. Admiration is passive. It is demanding you recognize discipline as the dividing line in a silent war. Those who command themselves and those who are commanded by everything else. If discipline feels oppressive to you, understand what that means. It means your current identity depends on indulgence to survive. And identities like that do not endure pressure. They are eaten. The mechanism, delayed gratification, as dominance. Most men believe discipline is about effort. It isn't. Effort is common. Desperation produces effort. Panic produces effort. Discipline is about delay. Delayed gratification is not a productivity concept, it is a dominance mechanism. The man who can postpone relief controls the man who cannot. This is not philosophy. It is observable behavior encoded into every hierarchy you have ever entered. Prey live in the present tense. They react, they soothe. They explain their impulses with stories about balance and mental health, unaware that every unmanaged urge is a lever someone else can pull. Hunger, lust, anger, validation, each one becomes a handle. The predator trains himself to feel the same urges and do nothing. This is the critical distinction. Discipline does not remove desire. It cages it. Desire is energy. Undisciplined men leak it through indulgence. Disciplined men store it, compress it, and release it only when it buys position. Delayed gratification creates temporal asymmetry. When two men want the same outcome, the one who can wait longer wins. He negotiates from silence. He allows the other to reveal need, urgency, weakness. By the time the impatient man acts, the disciplined man has already decided whether to engage at all. This is why powerful men appear slow. They are not slow. They are unprovoked. Impulse is loud. It demands action now. It frames waiting as loss, restraint as suffering, denial as weakness. That framing is the voice of the nervous system, not the mind. The body wants equilibrium. The predator wants advantage. Discipline is the mind asserting sovereignty over the body. Every time you resist immediate gratification, you reinforce a neural hierarchy, command over craving. Over time, this becomes automatic. The urge still arises, but it no longer expects obedience. That is dominance at the biological level. Notice how institutions exploit the opposite. Advertising, social media, entertainment, all train instant response. Click now, buy now, react now. These systems profit from men who cannot wait. A man without delay is easy to steer. Machiavelli understood that men reveal themselves through impatience. He wrote that those who cannot endure temporary discomfort will sacrifice long-term power for short-term relief. That trade is irreversible. Once leverage is surrendered, it cannot be negotiated back. Delayed gratification also destroys emotional manipulability. Insults lose force when reaction is withheld. Seduction loses leverage when attention is not given freely. Fear loses control when action is postponed until clarity returns. This is why discipline feels like isolation. When you stop reacting on schedule, you exit the rhythm of the herd. People notice. Some resent it. Others attempt to provoke you back into predictability. That is a test. Predators pass it by waiting. Understand this clearly. Discipline is not about becoming productive. That is a side effect sold to civilians. Discipline is about becoming unmovable. When nothing can rush you, threaten you, or tempt you into premature action, you become difficult to exploit. Men who cannot delay gratification are governed by clocks they do not control. Men who can delay govern outcomes. This chapter installs a brutal truth. Every time you act to escape discomfort, instead of to gain position, you declare yourself prey. And the world responds accordingly. Predators, prey, and the undisciplined mass hierarchy is not created by wealth, intelligence, or morality. Those are decorations added later. Hierarchy is created by behavior under pressure. Discipline is the sorting mechanism. There are 3 categories of men in every environment. They are not labeled, but they are immediately recognized by those who know how to look. First, the prey. These men are governed by impulse and fear. They seek comfort reflexively and interpret restraint as oppression. They talk about fairness, intention, and effort because outcomes consistently escape them. Their discipline exists only when supervised. Remove consequences, and they collapse into indulgence. Prey are not stupid. That is the mistake. Many are intelligent, articulate, even talented. But intelligence without discipline is decorative. It produces theories, not leverage. Under stress, prey reveal themselves by speeding up, talking more, explaining more, reacting faster. Urgency leaks from them like heat. Second, the undisciplined mass. This is the largest group and the most dangerous to itself. These men oscillate. They attempt discipline in bursts, routines, challenges, vows, then abandon them the moment discomfort exceeds ego. They believe inconsistency is normal. It isn't. It is disqualification. The undisciplined mass mistakes intensity for commitment. They go hard, then disappear. They announce change, then relapse. They are predictable in their inconsistency, which makes them useful, but never powerful. Institutions love them. They work hard, burn out, and replace themselves. Then there are predators. Predators do not advertise discipline. They do not speak in motivational language. Their discipline is quiet, boring, and relentless. They do not surge, they persist. They are slow to commit, slower to react, and impossible to rush. Predators are defined by one trait: behavioral continuity under stress. When pressure increases, prey fragment. The undisciplined mass improvises excuses. Predators narrow their focus. They do less, but with precision. They conserve energy while others bleed it. This is why predators often appear detached or indifferent. They are not disengaged. They are selective. Attention is a finite resource. Predators ration it. Prey spend it. Notice how this plays out socially. In negotiations, the disciplined man speaks last. In conflict, he waits for escalation before responding. In opportunity, he delays entry until terms favor him. Others mistake this for passivity. It is patience weaponized. The undisciplined man believes showing hunger signals ambition. In reality, it signals need. Need is leverage in someone else's hands. Discipline also determines who becomes symbolic and who becomes disposable. Men without discipline are interchangeable. Their moods, output, and loyalty fluctuate. Systems cannot rely on them long-term. Disciplined men become anchors. When chaos increases, they gain value. This is not moral judgment, it is selection pressure. Predators are not born superior. They are forged through repeated denial of impulse when no reward is visible. This is why most men will never become one. Discipline offers no applause. It offers delayed, uneven, sometimes invisible returns. Prey require immediate feedback. Predators do not. Ask yourself a brutal question. When discomfort arrives, do you negotiate with it, justify escape, or submit to it? Your answer already places you in the hierarchy. This chapter forces recognition. Discipline is not self-control for its own sake. It is the behavioral signature that decides whether you are hunted, ignored, or deferred to. There is no fourth category. History's lesson. Discipline selects rulers. History is not a moral archive. It is a record of who endured longer than others. When you strip away myth, ceremony, and justification, one pattern remains. Disciplined men accumulate power. Undisciplined men explain their losses. Every empire, every dynasty, every regime was built by men who could tolerate prolonged discomfort without relief. Hunger, uncertainty, isolation, boredom, risk. These were not obstacles to power. They were the entry requirements. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors those prepared to meet her with force and patience. What he meant was simple. Opportunity does not wait for men who require comfort. It rewards those already hardened by restraint. Look at rulers who lasted versus those who flared briefly. The difference was rarely intelligence or courage. It was endurance without indulgence. Men who disciplined themselves during peace survived war. Men who relaxed discipline during success were replaced. Human nature does not change. Only the environment does. The modern world disguises selection with convenience, but the process is identical. Those who cannot regulate appetite, emotion, or attention are excluded from decision-making. They may be visible, but they are never sovereign. History also exposes a darker truth. Discipline enables cruelty when necessary. Sentimentality collapses power. Rulers who hesitated to deny, delay, or cut were removed by those who did not. Mercy without leverage is a confession of weakness. This is why disciplined men are feared. They are not governed by mood or moral fashion. They can act against instinct, against sympathy, against public approval. That capacity terrifies those who rely on consensus to feel safe. The undisciplined masses rewrite history to make themselves comfortable. They call conquerors lucky, tyrants, or anomalies, anything but disciplined. To acknowledge discipline as the deciding factor would indict their own behavior. Discipline also creates asymmetry across generations. Men who impose structure on themselves create systems that outlast them. Men who indulge create chaos their sons must survive. This is why decline always follows excess. Comfort dissolves restraint. Restraint dissolves power. You see this pattern everywhere. Companies that collapse after success. Leaders undone by indulgence. Civilizations that rot from inside before being conquered. External threats matter less than internal decay. Discipline erodes quietly, then catastrophically. The modern man is taught that history is unjust, rigged, or outdated. This is protective fiction. The real lesson is too uncomfortable. Power requires sustained denial of impulse, often without reward, often without recognition. History does not care if this feels unfair. It does not negotiate. It selects. This chapter closes the trap. If discipline has always decided who rules and who obeys, then your current level of discipline is not a personality trait, it is a forecast. And forecasts come true. Strategic reprogramming, becoming uncomfortable on command. Up to this point, discipline has been exposed. Now it is weaponized. Most men fail here because they attempt discipline emotionally. They wait to feel ready. They chase motivation. They negotiate with resistance. That approach guarantees collapse. Predators do not feel their way into discipline. They install it. Strategic discipline is not about doing more. It is about removing choice. Every indulgence you currently allow exists because you permit negotiation between impulse and action. That negotiation is the weakness. The predator eliminates the conversation entirely. When the signal appears, the response is automatic. This is what becoming uncomfortable on command actually means. You do not wait for hardship. You schedule it. You impose friction deliberately, in controlled doses, to train obedience to decision rather than desire. Cold exposure, fasting, silence, isolation, monotony. These are not wellness trends. They are neurological drills. Discomfort is not the goal. Compliance is. Each time you choose the harder option without drama, you reinforce a single internal law. Action follows command, not mood. Over time, this rewires your threat response. Pain stops feeling like danger and starts feeling like instruction. The undisciplined man avoids discomfort until it arrives uninvited. Loss, humiliation, rejection. Then he panics. The disciplined man meets discomfort daily in small, voluntary confrontations. When real pressure arrives, it feels familiar, manageable, almost boring. This is the asymmetry. Strategic discipline also requires subtraction. You remove excess inputs that weaken control, constant stimulation, unnecessary social obligations, emotional conversations that lead nowhere. Every leak of attention is a tax on sovereignty. Predators are minimalists by necessity, not aesthetic minimalism, functional minimalism. Fewer vices, fewer dependencies, fewer people with access to their emotional state. Discipline tightens the perimeter. Notice the shift. This is not self-improvement. It is force reduction. You are not adding habits. You are deleting vulnerabilities. The hardest part is consistency without intensity. Most men can suffer briefly. Very few can endure quietly. Predators choose the boring path because boredom cannot seduce. it has no voice. This is where identity resistance emerges. The old self will argue that this is extreme, unhealthy, unnecessary. That voice is not reason. It is dependency fighting extinction. Do not debate it. Debate implies equality. You execute it. Strategic discipline is cold because power is cold. Warmth creates attachment. Attachment creates hesitation. Hesitation gets you replaced. By the end of this chapter's logic, discipline is no longer aspirational. It is procedural. You do not try to be disciplined. You operate under discipline the way a blade operates under tension. Relax the tension, and it is useless. This chapter does not motivate you. It removes your excuses, and what remains is either obedience to self or exposure to everyone else. Identity execution, killing the undisciplined self. Discipline reaches its final form here. Not as behavior, but as identity replacement. Most men attempt to layer discipline on top of who they already are. That is why it never lasts. The existing identity sabotages it. Habits are loyal to identity. If the identity remains indulgent, discipline will always feel foreign, temporary, exhausting. So the undisciplined self must die. This is not metaphorical comfort talk. It is psychological execution. You cannot negotiate coexistence between a predator and a comfort seeker. One will always undermine the other. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote that injuries must be inflicted decisively, not gradually. Partial destruction invites revenge. Your current identity is built on permission. Permission to rest, to explain, to delay, to indulge, because you deserve it. That identity survives by telling stories about balance, fairness, intention, burnout. These stories exist to protect weakness from accountability. Predators do not argue with these stories. They remove the storyteller. Identity execution begins when you stop asking who you feel like being and decide who you will obey. The moment discipline becomes non-negotiable, personality collapses. What remains is function. This is why disciplined men appear less expressive. Expression requires optionality. Discipline removes options. When only one behavior is allowed, character simplifies. This simplification feels like loss to the old self. It is. That loss is the cost of sovereignty. Understand the fear correctly. You are not afraid of suffering. You are afraid of becoming someone your current social environment cannot control. An undisciplined identity is compatible with the herd. A disciplined one disrupts it. People will resist this change subtly. They will call you distant, rigid, obsessed, different. These are not observations. They are alarms. Your predictability is leaving. This is the moment most men retreat. They mistake social friction for error. Predators interpret it as confirmation. Identity death also severs false loyalties. You stop over-explaining. You stop promising. You stop seeking permission to act in your own interest. Discipline does not ask for understanding. It proceeds. What replaces the old identity is not confidence or motivation. It is silence and reliability. You do what you said you would do, regardless of state. Over time, this consistency becomes intimidating. Not because you threaten, but because you no longer need to. The final marker of identity replacement is this: discipline no longer feels heavy. Indulgence does. Comfort becomes suspicious. Ease feels like exposure. At that point, you are no longer practicing discipline. You are protected by it. Final warning: discipline or irrelevance. There is no neutral ending to this. Men who believe they can hover between discipline and indulgence misunderstand how selection works. The environment does not wait for clarity. It sorts continuously. You will either be disciplined enough to control your trajectory, or undisciplined enough to be carried by forces you do not respect. Irrelevance does not arrive dramatically. It arrives quietly. You are consulted less, deferred to never. Opportunities pass without your awareness. Decisions are made elsewhere by men who waited longer, spoke less, and endured more. These men are not louder than you. They are simply still standing when others decay. This is the final inversion. Discipline is framed as sacrifice, but indulgence is what costs you everything: time, leverage, credibility, authority. Each moment of unmanaged impulse is a small abdication. Enough abdications, and you no longer qualify to matter. No one announces this disqualification. The world simply stops responding. Machiavelli warned that men who rely on fortune instead of preparation are ruined when conditions change. Discipline is preparation embodied. It is the only asset that functions in chaos, scarcity, and conflict. Understand the warning precisely. This is not about becoming elite in someone else's eyes. It is about remaining selectable when pressure increases. History does not preserve the comfortable. It preserves the controlled. If you walk away from this unchanged, nothing will happen immediately. That is the danger. Comfort delays consequence, but delay does not cancel it. Discipline compounds, so does neglect. One path leads to sovereignty, quiet, uncelebrated, and difficult. The other leads to dependence, crowded, numbing, and invisible. No one will force you to choose, but the world will enforce the outcome.